slides?
Yes.
How are you feeling? Cold? I was thinking. Well, this presentation is going to be a little bit interactive, so I would like you to say good morning to the person next to you. If you don't like the person next to you, speak to the person behind you. And maybe I should start off by saying that bringing the classroom to life is closely connected with the topic of what are often called 21st century skills. Can you tell me some 21st century skills? Teamwork, critical thinking, teamwork, collaboration, I like that. So, for me, any classroom where the goal is communication, which is another 21st century skill, is not going to work without collaboration. Yeah? So I'm not interested in giving a talk on the topic of... I didn't know we were going to see these animals on my presentation. Yes? Yes. But I would like to see my presentation. Fine. I don't know, although I work for National Geographic Learning, my knowledge of wild animals is limited. Okay, the first thing I'd like to do is just say thank you very much to Caroline, because it was a very interesting presentation and very closely linked with what I'm going to talk about. In my opinion, one aspect of bringing the classroom to life, communication, one aspect is training your students to collaborate, to work together. Another important aspect is to make sure they are prepared. Because how can they communicate if they do not have anything to talk about? So I think Caroline made that point very effectively. If you flip the classroom, if you make sure that responsibility moves over to the student, you might be surprised. They may respond very positively to that. My limited knowledge of Vietnam, I would say they probably will respond very positively to that, because Vietnamese people are quite dynamic. They want to be given responsibility. So that works in our favor. The teacher as a facilitator. If the responsibility moves over to the students to prepare for the next class, then the teacher's role is able to move back a little bit. The teacher can be the facilitator. Now I want you to talk about, if the students are not prepared, you are forced to teach all the time. And it's hard work. Do you like teaching? I like being a facilitator. Of course, the problem when you speak to your boss and you say, no, I'm not a teacher, I'm a facilitator. Maybe your boss won't like that, but you can be a facilitator. We're going to start off with a mystery. Do you know who this is? Very good. So I'm going to give you a mystery to solve. I'm going to show you, well, I'm not actually going to show you anything. You're going to listen. I want you to try to guess what is happening. And then I want you to tell your new best friend, the beautiful person sitting next to you, I want you to tell them what you think you heard. Are you ready? I hope you will hear something. Could you speak to the person next to you, or in front of you, or behind you, very quickly? You have 20 seconds. What do you think was happening? Okay. 20 seconds are up. Any ideas? What do you think was happening?
The money from the factory, they are making cars.
Very good. It's a factory where they're making cars. Any other ideas? They're cutting wood. A more traditional view, maybe. Anything else? Caroline, what do you think?
I thought it sounded like a saw.
Sounds like a saw. So even more traditional. Caroline, where do you come from?
I am from rural Alabama.
Right, so from rural Alabama where they do a lot of cutting with saws. Okay, so we're going to come back to that at the end. English, as we know, is very, very important for Vietnam, and particularly at the moment, because the age of ASEAN, at the end of this year, the very end of this year, the 31st of December, ASEAN will become the official working language of, English will become the official working language of ASEAN. English, as we know, is the language of technology and science, the language of education, the language of entertainment, the language of economics. Maybe not within Vietnam, but as soon as there is any interaction with another country. This man, Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, was the former Secretary General of ASEAN. And I like this quote. He said that English, to be dynamic, the classroom, English needs to be seen as more than just a subject to be memorized. It's a way of promoting 21st century skills. It should be content-based. In other words, you should be using it to do things. Again, if you refer back to Caroline's presentation, you prepare the students beforehand, you give them something to do. It's extremely motivating to see that they can do things. Yeah? Because in reality, in 2016, nobody from Singapore is going to speak to you and say, now, can you tell me the present perfect continuous? They won't say that. But they might say, can you help me to saw this piece of wood? Yeah, content-based. So, to make the classroom dynamic, to bring the classroom to life, we need to inspire our students. So, it's quite an open debate. What inspires our students? Well, needs is one thing. That's easy in a university. Your students, I always give the example of IELTS or TOEFL. If your students don't want to do something, you say, well, I want you to jump in the air. I want you to do a somersault. They say, why? Say, because you'll get an IELTS band 7. If you do, they will do it. If you can relate anything to their needs, this is one way of inspiring. Making things challenging, but not too challenging. So there's a balance there. And again, what Caroline was talking about, preparation before the class, means that the classroom can be a challenging environment, but no one is at a disadvantage because everyone has done some preparation. And lastly, which is what I'm going to focus on today, because I only have 45 minutes, This is a topic that we could talk about for 2 weeks without dinner. But we're not going to. We're going to just focus on curiosity. And of course, I'm fortunate enough, I work for National Geographic Learning. We have great images and videos to use. So I'm going to focus a little bit on that and how images can be used to inspire curiosity and in this way inspire the classroom. So why and how can we use images in the classroom? We're going to do a little classroom activity together. This is nobody I know. Very quickly, with your best friend, 10 seconds this time, what do you think this image represents? Very quickly, with your partner, what do you Okay, 10 seconds is up. Any ideas? Gentleman over here, what do you think? Someone who's wanted. Okay, lady over here, what do you think?
I think it is a black face on newspaper.
It's a what?
That is a kind of black face, negative, on newspaper.
Oh, it's a blank face. It's somebody that's wanted for something. Actually, it's not. Although it's great that you're thinking about it, it's not that at all. It's if we zoom in, it doesn't help us a great deal. What it does show us is that all these dots are actually images. There are 7,000 faces. Any idea? Why 7,000? Each image represents 1 million people. Any ideas? The world population. So who is this person? This is, you say it's Chinese, very good. This person is Mr. or Mrs. or Miss or Ms. Average. Do you think it's a Mr. or a Ms?
Something in between.
Something in between. We'll come back to that in another presentation. It's actually a Mr. because at the moment there are slightly more men in the world than women, which is good news for some of you and bad news for others. So, we're going to think about Mr. Average. So, let's think about the typical person. Who is Mr. Average? We're going to focus on a few of these. So, for example, how old is he? What is the population of the place where he lives? What language does he speak? What job does he do? Does he live in the city or the countryside? Where he lives, is there good internet access, for example? So if I was doing this with a class, I would then say, right, everybody, let's divide into groups and let's predict, let's think, what do we think? And then I would say, let's open the book and let's check. We're going to do this activity in mini. So very quickly, I'm going to give you a minute this time. I'm being very generous. A whole minute. With your beautiful partner, I want you to predict how old is Mr. Average? What religion do you think Mr. Average has, if any? And does he live in the city or the countryside? What do you think? Over to you. Gentlemen, can we have some ideas, please? Over here. How old do you think he is? 40? 30? 40? 25? You think the average person in the world is 25?
It should be.
What do you mean by middle age?
Yes, 13 to 14, you say.
This is scary, isn't it? This is scary, so I'm already leaving middle age. What about religion? Buddhist. Very interesting. Curiously enough, what is the most common religion in Vietnam? Buddhist. And what do you say? Buddhist. We'll come back to that. Urbanization, city or countryside? Countryside. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the answers. So we imagine that we open the book and these are the answers. Surprised? Right. How about in Vietnam? What is the average age of Mr. Vietnam? 25 is the average age. Maybe the average age in Vietnam is younger. It's a very young country. That's why Caroline's students are all teaching her about technology. What about the life expectancy? So, do you think it's higher than average or lower than average? Yes. It probably, and why do you think that is? Why do you think maybe the life expectancy of Vietnam is higher than in some countries? Happy. Anything else? Lifestyle, food, motorbikes. We'll come back to that. Okay, what about the religion here? Let's have a look. Now, are you surprised? So, it's very interesting. When I ask this question in Thailand, everybody says Buddhist. Everybody's Buddhist. When I ask this question in Indonesia, everyone says Muslim. Yeah, most people in the world are Muslim. When I ask this question in Philippines, everyone says, oh, Catholic. Christian, everybody's Catholic. And then they do a Hail Mary. But it's interesting. Our perceptions of the world are very much shaped by where we are. Are you surprised? He's not surprised. So, this is in this case, if we looked at these figures from 10 years ago, it would have been the reverse. It's only in recent years that slightly more of the world's population now lives in cities. What about in Vietnam? Do most people live in cities or the countryside? Probably the countryside, okay? So we compare. We are comparing with Vietnam. Why is that important? Why is it important that we ask the students to compare? To make it related to their environment. Why must we do that? Okay, in a sense, it refers again back to Caroline's presentation. She referred to Bloom's taxonomy, the different layers of thinking skills. If we simply show a text and ask some questions, read the text, all we're doing is practicing reading skills. Maybe we're doing a bit of remembering and checking understanding. We're not analysing or evaluating. So by doing this, your students are using more language, the thought processes are deeper, and of course they will remember more. This question, if you ask your students, how about the Vietnam? If you ask your students, what was the first question? How old is the average person in Vietnam? Do they know? Of course not. So, let's flip the classroom. Homework. Everybody, go on the internet, find the answers to one of these questions, and then we will start the next class by talking about this. Bring the classroom to life. So then we open the book to check, we find the answers, and we've just done that. What was the purpose of this activity? Well, a number of purposes. We scanned an image. We didn't only scan text, we scanned an image. Or in this case, we probably skimmed an image. Right? We just wanted to say, what's it about? What do we think it's about? Then we started talking about the topic to predict. You know, what do you think the average person looks like? Are you an average person? Most people think they are average people. But I don't think you look at all like the person, like Mr. Average. Yeah? So we're not average. Everyone's different, but are you typical of the world at large? So unless you are Han Chinese and you are 28 years old and male, and you have a mobile phone but you don't have internet access, and you are probably atheist or Christian, unless you are all of those things, you're not average. We're predicting information, so we're giving a reason to read. A lot of teachers say to me, well, my students don't want to read. They don't want to watch the video. They don't want to listen. Well, put yourself in the student's position. If you go home tonight and your partner says, watch television, read the newspaper, now answer the questions. Is that a natural way of doing things? They need a reason to do these things. Where do you work? You work in this university. Imagine you go home tonight and your wife says, darling, there's been a terrible scandal at your university. Look, it's in the newspaper. Your boss's photo. Do you want to read the newspaper now? Yes, because we have created interest. So if we don't do these things, if we don't flip the classroom to some extent, if we don't use predictive skills, if we don't use images, our students will not want to read or listen or watch the video. Sometimes we can't blame the students, we have to look at ourselves. What can we do? I talk about myself as well. Then we can open the book and we can scan the text, because your students are thirsty. They want to know. They want to know the answers. And by relating to our own worlds, comparing to Ho Chi Minh City, comparing to Vietnam, comparing to the family, then we are using our critical thinking skills. And as I've just explained, this mimics real life. This is what really happens. You always have a reason to do something. Images can generate curiosity and discussion. They can also be interpreted in different ways. Traditional classrooms, the question is usually what or which, and the answer is A, B or C. How many answers? One. Real life is not like that. Real life, there are many questions and many answers. So again, it makes sense to use an image. This helps to generate curiosity, and different students will have different ideas. Finally, images can really help us to remember. If I showed you the image of Mr. Average in 6 months' time, you will remember almost everything from today. But if I just show you some words, you'll find it very difficult. The importance of images is nothing, recognizing the importance of images is nothing new. Aristotle, when Aristotle was around, did he have Google images? No. But he understood that without image, thinking is impossible. In reality, when you read a novel, how many people have read Harry Potter? You've read Harry Potter. Then you saw the movie. If you like the movie, it's probably because your image of the characters was the same as in the movie. But have you ever seen a movie where you were very disappointed after reading the book? And you thought, nah, this is not how I imagined it at all. Because we think in images when we read. They help us to remember. They arouse our curiosity. They help with memory, and they help us to understand text. Images are used everywhere. It's very unusual to find a newspaper or a magazine with just text and no images. So, curiously enough, it's not, although the younger generation are certainly more comfortable with technology, it doesn't mean that they are more visually literate than you are. This is why Vietnamese students struggle with IELTS. They struggle with task 1 writing because they have to interpret visual information. So you can help use images in class. Discuss the meaning. Images can convey concepts and generate thought. I'm going to show you an example of how the images give meaning to text. I'm going to show you a text. Not for very long. So you've got to focus. Are you ready? Okay. What was it about? Some people got bicycles, yeah? Some people were still thinking about coffee. And anything else about bicycles? Alright, I'm going to show you again. I'm going to show you again. The history of bicycles. I showed you for less than 1 second. This man has very high visual literacy skills. He's also wearing glasses. From the images we can work out almost the entire meaning of the text. We're going to finish by considering how our students can also be a resource. So this, I've used a little technology here, you've noticed. I've shown not only images, I showed a short video with music, which I thought would better convey an idea. But Caroline asked an interesting question. She said, how many of your students have mobile phones? Tell me. All of them. Now, we don't have to use technology necessarily. We are facilitators, remember? We don't have to do anything. We can just facilitate. But we can ask our students to use the technology that they have. For example, they could create a story using digital images. Right? They could use pictures and videos on their mobile phones. So, we'll look at an example. I showed you a video without sound. Now I'm going to show you the video, without sound, without pictures. Okay? I'm now going to show you the video with the images so that you can see if you were correct. Was it someone in Alabama cutting a piece of wood with a saw? Was it someone in the car factory in Vietnam putting a car together? Let's see. Sorry. Let's see now. So here's some questions with your partner. See if you can answer the questions. Can't possibly know the answers to all these questions because I took a video. Actually, I lied. My son took the video. My son took the video. You can't know when it was, so you have to ask me. So you would ask me questions about the video. So ask me one of the questions. Everybody's suddenly gone very shy. Thank you, sir. When was the video taken? The video was taken about 6 months ago, actually. Number 2. Who's in the video? My eldest son. I have a collection of sons. Third question. What is happening in the video? Well, my younger son and my daughter are watching a creation of my elder son, which is a robot. It's a robot made from a can and some sort of motor. He's much better with technology than I am, so we would need him to come here and explain. What was happening before the videos? Like, what do you think?
The children cry.
They were crying, yeah? You might be right. They needed something to focus on. And what do you think is going to happen next? What were they wearing? Pajamas. So what do you think is going to happen next? They're going to go to bed. Now, my point here is, again, flipped classroom. Teacher as facilitator. Bring the classroom to life. Your students, their levels of English vary. Give them something content-based. Give them a reason to use English. This is a great use of technology. Take a video. It must be just 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Bring it to class. In groups, you're going to show the video, or you're just going to listen to the sound, in this case. What do you think is happening? Ask some questions. Show the video again. Fantastic. You don't even need internet. Right? 10 years ago, this activity would have been very difficult to do. Almost impossible. 10 years ago, we needed expensive, what did we call them? Video cams, yeah? Yeah, and they were very complicated with tapes. It's so easy now. Wait. Okay, so this is it for today, from me. I just want to say that my 2 colleagues from Vietnam here, Ms. Trang and Mr. Yui, are here to answer any questions about our materials, and they brought some books with them. They are younger than me, a little younger, and they're very good with technology. So they've produced a fantastic Facebook page for National Geographic Learning in Vietnam, and you will be able to access a PDF version of these slides if you want. We'll make them available in a few days. And also, if you want to know about our activities in Vietnam, we also post, what do we post, Yui? Photos, yeah, nice photos. Do you take them? Somebody takes them. They're taken by National Geographic photographers. And we also have, on here, we also have ideas for teaching. 21st century skills, and so on. This is me. A recent photo taken by National Geographic. My wife said, if you're coming to Ho Chi Minh TESOL, you must cut your hair. So that was taken before this presentation. This is my email. Thank you very much. I hope it was useful.